Yeah, hi there. These comments are for 1856. I'm using the last four digits of your student ID number, and I am Professor Buckoff, your English 107 instructor here at California State University, San Bernardino. Thank you for submitting your research project, your essay number 2. I just scored it, so you got 71% out of 100. I recorded your grade in Blackboard. And let's talk about it for a minute. So there's a few things that you can do to improve this essay. Number one, when you're working on the next project, you need to make an outline, make your thesis that you think will frame the project, and come by my office. You need to get some feedback. I'm willing to help you, but you have to come to my office to do that. That's going to help you a lot. Now, in this one, in the first paragraph, you say, in the same way Durf has changed from doing one thing to another, though he was not good at it, the winds of change is inevitable, and like the booger, things will always come and go. But that doesn't really frame the project. You need a thesis that focuses on the three parts of the project. So let me give you an example of a student who has a thesis statement. The writer says here, she says, John Backdurf conveys his theory of how fads and trends evolve. Durf also divulges a profound message that he hopes his audience will know and understand. In my personal experience with the acceptance of fads, I can say there are many trends that exemplify and affirms Durf's theory on the evolution of fads. Right? So, right in the beginning, the writer states those sentences, and each of those sentences, they focus around the three parts of the project. So you did not do that. Now, the next thing. I think in the first part of the assignment, I think was good. I gave you 5 points out of 5. But the second part of the project, you didn't really explain a hidden message. You kind of re-explained the cartoon, but to explain this correctly, you stayed more on the direct or the literal level of meaning with the cartoon. You weren't able to go beneath the surface to interpret a hidden message. That's really the big problem. Notice how on page 2 in your topic sentence you say, 1995 Madonna went for an interview with Dave Letterman on the Late Night Show. That's a detail. That's not a topic sentence. So let's contrast that. Remember that the purpose of part 2 is to explain an interpretation. So to give you an example of how you might do that, let me read this writer's example here. So the writer says, part 2, what is the message behind Durf's theory? So the writer says, Durf's early life, specifically his junior high and high school life, had a great impact on the deeper messages revealed in his later works, such as The City. Notice she uses the word deeper messages. Why? Because deeper messages connects to part 2 of the project, and it gives the purpose of that paragraph. She said, when Durf was an adolescent, he was a member of his own counterculture, which eventually grew into a subculture that no longer opposed society, but instead became the punk movement. The punk subculture was centered on loud, aggressive punk rock music, which emphasized anti-authoritarian views and encourage individual freedom as well as useful rebellion and distinct fashions. Body jewelry, specific hairstyles, tattoos, and dark makeup were just a few of the examples of possible trademarks of a typical member of this subculture. Now, fast forward a few years later to after Durf graduates high school, he becomes an art student but eventually drops out. Durf uses his old subculture as a point of origin of the certain trend in his comic. Why is this? Durf had his own various experiences with fads and trends, beginning with his adolescent punk rock phase and continuing into his young adult life as an art student at the Art Institute of Pittsburgh. It's very safe to say that Durf has experienced the cycle of trends and fads several times over. However, his cartoons and writing are very sarcastic and mock these passing trends and those who adopt them. Durf is depicting to us how naive and blind society can be. Alright, so then the writer goes on in that area. So that is what I consider an interpretation. But you weren't able to do that. You just kept re-explaining what was happening in the cartoon over and over. You didn't say anything about his punk rock career. You didn't say anything about his studying at the University of Pittsburgh or any of those kinds of things. So your interpretation was just not, it wasn't deep enough, and you didn't pull from his background, you didn't pull from the year 1995, or you didn't pull from the cartoon enough in order to support whatever the interpretation is that you think you wanted to argue. So the last area of the writing, on page 4, you get into what's called putting rings on fingers, but you didn't really develop that point very much. You should have developed that really over 2 pages, to be honest, to really have a thoughtful kind of end to the essay. So overall, on this writing project, you had 39 points out of 55, and this puts you at 71% on this assignment. So what do you do now? So you missed the first writing project by adding late. That's 10 percentage points. On this assignment, you have 71 of your 100 percentage points. That's 20%. So it's safe to say you want to get a very strong score on the final writing project. So follow my directions that I said in the beginning of the video. Make an outline along with your thesis. Then come by my office and let's take a look at what you're doing. All right? And thank you for watching this video.